Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Animation Podcast. And this is a show where we talk about animated films that we want to talk about, usually obscure, indie, underappreciated films. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. I'm looking forward to talking with you about this film. And you're just so nice to host on this because it was kind of my at my request.
Oh,
So
well,
thank you.
I'm grateful too, because I love this movie, and I recognize as an adult some of the flaws, but it's definitely one that I have a lot of nostalgia for. I mean, when it first came out, I probably liked it as much as any of the Disney Renaissance films, if not
Yeah,
more so. I mean, I
yeah.
really loved this movie. It came out when I was 16,
Okay.
and I still love it. I still think it's great. When I did my top 50 animated film series, I had it on. I had it on there because I just couldn't deny it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and so we'll talk about it. But do you remember seeing it back in
Yeah, I
late
saw it back in
19?
the day. I saw the film when it came out in theaters in 1997.
Yeah.
And I guess we should say we're talking about Anastasia, by the
Yes.
way,
Oh
right?
yes.
I'm not sure we mentioned the title.
Yeah, we're talking about Anastasia, the
From
Don
Fox,
Bluth.
yeah, from
Yeah.
Fox Animation Studios, Don Bluth from
Yeah.
1997.
Yes.
I just wanted to put that in context because in '90s, as you mentioned, the Disney Renaissance was just winding down, and I am such a Disney fan. I just really felt like this film was so derivative, but there was still so much I liked about it. So anyway,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching it again, and I'm excited to kind of
Hmm.
process through it with you. I'd also just like to mention too, Rachel, that as I kind of alluded to at the beginning, that you're so nice to put this on your podcast. My major movie watching project of this year has been to watch 100 films from 20th Century Fox, and I picked the films, but I tried to find
Hmm.
films that were representative of different genres or films that were super popular the year they came out, or
Yeah.
whatnot. And this is the one film I picked from Fox Animation Studios, even though the studio wasn't open that long, and they had like Titan AE, and I think there was maybe another one that came out. Anyway, this is
Yeah.
the one I picked. But also, Fox did a live action Anastasia in 1956 that starred Ingrid Bergman and Yul Brynner.
Mm.
And I don't know if have you ever seen that film? It's
I
terrific.
never have. I
It's
never
very
have.
good. Highly
Is it the
recommended.
same kind of story, or is
Oh
it
yeah, it's the
different?
same story in that
Okay.
so Ingrid Bergman plays this woman who doesn't really know who she is, and Yul Brynner is plays that Dimitri role, that trying to be in a way kind of being a huckster,
Hmm.
but then they realize, oh my goodness, she could probably be truly the missing princess.
Hmm.
But anyway, Helen Hayes is in it. Helen Hayes plays the dowager, or not the, I mean, just the
Yeah.
countess role that Angela Lansbury voices
Hmm.
anyway, highly recommended.
Yeah.
Beautifully filmed, beautiful sets and costumes and everything, and just terrific acting.
Yeah.
So
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
yeah,
I can understand why people take issue with this movie. I mean, if it was my heritage and my culture, I might be more sensitive to it. And I mean, as an adult, I've definitely grown more sensitive to that, and that, that some things are a little cringy in it. But I still think that it I still think it's a pretty entertaining film. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm able to kind of, I don't know, take it as historical fiction, like reading a historical romance novel that you don't, just like even when I watch something like Hamilton, I'm not really watching it for like the history lesson. I'm looking at it for like what kind of insights, what can it say? What can I learn from this? How can I be entertained? And so it's romantic historical fiction basically. This movie.
Yeah, I perfectly said. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean overall, rewatching it overall, what'd you think?
There's so much of it that I like. I think that Anastasia is a really strong character,
Hmm.
and so I like that. I like the majority of of the music. I think the songs are
Hmm.
great. I think the animation is lovely,
Yes.
and really impressive. Detailed and beautiful backgrounds, and just great character
And
designs and costumes.
yeah,
That
and
they.
some pretty impressive sequences, like the train crash sequence
Oh yeah,
is very well done.
yeah. I've got a big complaint with Rasputin, and we can address that
Yeah.
later. but really, it's a very entertaining. It's a very entertaining and a well-made
Hmm.
film, I think,
Yeah.
and happy that uh, that that it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the musical?
No, see, I missed it when it came through. I was out of town when it when
Mm.
when it came through at the Eccles, here in Salt Lake City. I want to see it partly because again that it uses these songs that I like, and then the Rasputin character is portrayed, I think, differently, or is it even portrayed at all? Is he even a character
Hmm.
in
No.
the stage production?
So I didn't see it at Eccles, but I saw it. I was actually at a high school production of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did a great job there. It was very good. So it's Syracuse High School,
Oh, nice.
randomly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I saw it there, and I feel like they overcorrected.
Ah, interesting.
That
It's
they
like
turn
the
instead of
pendulum went
Rasputin.
way over.
Yeah, instead of Rasputin, they have this general type, this military guy that's like hunting them down. And he was just really boring to me. Like I would rather have an over the top kind of villain, fun character with like to me at least, a humorous
Yeah.
sidekick. I would way rather have that than this kind of boring. I just felt like they took a lot of the energy out of the movie, and didn't replace it with stuff that was fun. They replaced it with stuff that was boring
It was boring. Okay,
to me.
interesting.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I just felt like they overcorrected. And I understand
Uh-huh.
why they had to do what they had to do, but you don't want to go to a Broadway music for a history lesson. You want to go to be
You could
entertained.
go be entertained. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and pretty much everything I liked in it, it was because of the original, with the songs and the,
Yeah.
things like that. So, yeah, it starts out, and it is, I have to admit, pretty cringy. Watching it back, this painting the Tsar Russia as this fairyland.
Yeah.
Enchanted world of elegant palaces and grand parties, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
mm, maybe not.
Exactly. That I should say that I have issues with that too,
Yeah,
along with the portrayal of Rasputin, which we'll get to. But
yeah.
yeah,
So Rasputin, he is painted as the villain. He said he thought he was a holy man, but he was a fraud, and basically they make the decision to make Rasputin kind of a he's like sold a soul to the devil,
yeah,
right? And there's like this, I don't know what you call that thing that he has. It's not like a lantern. It's like
yeah.
I don't
It's
know what
like
it's called.
this little. Yes, I'm with you. I don't know what it's called either, but it's that little gold flask thing that
Yeah,
holds
it's
his
like a
power.
talisman or
Or this,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
or
it
glass.
has
Yeah,
his magic power in this tube.
yeah,
And so he sells his soul, and he wants revenge on the Romanovs. And I mean, I am far from an expert on Rasputin, but he was a real person.
yeah. He
And
was a real
he
person, and I think he was, you know, kind of a creepy person. I think he practiced some kind of dark, some doing stuff in the dark arts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think that he got the czar kind of involved in some of that,
Yeah,
and that. so in this one they go kind of full on that he's like a sorcerer,
He's
and
like Jafar.
mm-hmm.
Is what I felt like. He was a real ripoff of Jafar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading here on the Wikipedia. It says he traveled to St. Petersburg in 1903, and then in 1904 and 1905, where he captivated some church and social leaders, and he became a society figure and met with Emperor Nicholas and Empress Alexander in 1905. So he began acting as the healer of the imperial couple's only son, Alexei, who had hemophilia. And some saw him as mystic, visionary, and a prophet, and others as a religious charlatan. This is the high point of Rasputin's power was in 1915 when Nicholas II left St. Petersburg to oversee Russian armies fighting World War I. So he had some power there. In the early morning of the 30th of December 1916, Rasputin was assassinated by a group of conservative noblemen who opposed his influence over Alexander and Nicholas. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So, anyway, it's kind of interesting. I mean, so he's a complicated, it sounds like a
Yeah,
complicated
complicated.
figure.
And
Uh,
I know that they needed to put somebody in as a bad guy, so they the creative team picked him
mm-hmm,
for the animated film. And yeah, I guess again it's definitely it's entertaining. It fits within the genre, of again just the Disney animated musical that I feel like this is very much following that template.
mm-hmm,
But it just felt again the combination of the Russian czars were just lived in beautiful palaces and were just happy doing things. Wasn't they weren't portraying the overall social context of what was going on in
yeah,
the time period. And then the revolution was kind of planted by Rasputin and his magic,
mm-hmm,
versus no, it's like horrible social conditions and all this stuff,
right,
that was going on. So that just
yeah.
seemed that's I guess I'd call it cringy.
Yeah,
For
I
me, it was
agree. Especially, I had
super
never
cringy.
really noticed how cringy that introduction was until, again, you notice things when you're taking notes for
Yeah,
a podcast, that a movie I've seen so many times that that you didn't notice before. But yeah, that introductory is pretty cringe. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
you Rachel, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but it was kind of in a way reminding me of Pocahontas
Yeah.
in that they take some serious liberties with these historical figures.
I mean, it sounds like almost that Pocahontas is maybe more accurate.
I know. I
I
was
mean,
gonna say. I think
aside from the
Pocahontas is
fact that
is more
Pocahontas,
accurate.
yeah, aside from that Pocahontas was a little girl, she was
Yeah,
likely 11 or 12.
and they didn't magically speak English and all that stuff. But
Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's some, but you have to make the comparison. They were made very close to each
yeah,
other. They're
close to each
both based on
other, and
historical events.
mhm.
And so it makes sense you'd have to compare the two. But I do like Christopher Lloyd's performance as Rasputin.
Oh, I do too.
I think he gives a really good performance.
It's a solid performance. I can't say. I mean, and he's got the cute sidekick again.
Bartok.
There's Bartok, who voiced by Hank Azaria, who's
Uh-huh.
fine. I mean, he has some funny lines.
Yeah, he does have some funny lines.
And again, I just think, yeah, this is again, this just wants to be a Disney film,
Yeah.
and that's
I
I'm not saying that as a
yeah.
necessarily as a criticism. It's just more like, yeah, that's just something that you'd see in one of these Disney films from the.
Yeah, and I'm we'll talk about Dark of Night, but I do like the song. I think it's a very catchy song. I
Oh,
think it
it's a
has,
oh the
in my
songs are
opinion,
great.
I think all the songs are really good. It's Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flattery
Yeah.
are the writers of the songs. And of course this was directed by Don Bluth. Have you I gotten to read his book yet?
No,
Yeah.
I've got to
Uh,
read his book.
so
Maybe
one
over
of
the holidays, I'm going to be able to do
yeah,
it.
you'd like it. I think
Oh,
you'd
I'm
get a
sure
kick
I
out
will.
of
I
it.
was going to find it fascinating.
Yeah. And I one of the traditions that I have, because I usually end up going to Disneyland alone, because that's just my life. So one of the things I like to do while I'm waiting in line is I will listen to biographies about animators. And
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so this last one I listened to for D23 and for Disneyland. I listened to Don Bluth's memoir biography. I listened to one on Ward Kimball. I listened to one on the female animators, early female animators, which was of Disney, which was really fun. And so, yeah, I really I enjoy that. And so I listened to his book, and he's talking about his journey. I have to admit, a little corny, because he's like, he's talking about when I talk to myself in the mirror. Like, he has this whole like conversations with him when I look at that boy in the mirror, and it's a little corny, but it was still very interesting. And it's interesting because when he first started out of Disney. With Secret of Nim, I think that he was really doing something that Disney wasn't doing. So it's kind of interesting that his career kind of came full circle to doing something that was so similar to what Disney was doing,
Yeah. Yeah. Good
with,
point. It's very
yeah.
interesting.
And Anastasia does, I always get a kind of a chuckle because, I've been a writer for rotoscopers for many years. And way back, I was like 2016, 2017, a long time ago, well before the purchase of Fox. We every year we do a April Fool's
Uh-huh.
post piece. And this one year, they somebody wrote up a post of that Anastasia was going to be made the new Disney princess, and how all this stuff, and that she was being like purchased by Disney, and she's going to be the new Disney princess, and all this stuff. This news piece, right? And I think it was the most popular. I'd have to ask Morgan about this, but I'm pretty sure it was like the most popular post on the site for like years.
That's so great.
I mean, so many people would share it, and and not realize, April
Yeah,
Fools
then
or
let's see the
whatever.
dude
And and so it was so ironic when, of course,
when
then
Disney
Disney
buys
bought
Fox. Yeah.
Fox, and so now she really could be, if they wanted to, make her a Disney princess, which is hilarious.
What was interesting to me too, and I think we had corresponded about this, but I could have sworn that early on, when Disney Plus launched, Anastasia and then the
Yeah.
Fox acquisition had happened. Anastasia was on Disney Plus. I could have
Mhm.
sworn. I could be wrong,
No, it definitely was, and
but
then I think it
it's no
went to
longer
and then
or
I think it went to
currently.
HBO Max for a while, and then now it's just on nothing, which
Yeah,
is
I had to
weird.
rent it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very strange. I mean, I own it on DVD, so I was able to watch it. But
yeah.
the but anyway, going back to, so the first song is A Rumor in St. Petersburg. And I think part of the reason why I enjoyed this so much is I've always been a, big Broadway person. And this has a very Broadway style feel.
It
The
does.
numbers.
Not only the song, but also how they stage the animation.
Yes.
I think is so interesting because it's just like straight out of a Broadway musical.
Yeah.
The way that the characters are placed and the choreography,
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
And I think that's why the songs that were from the original worked well in the Broadway musical, because they were already ready. It's not like
Hmm.
with some of their other shows, or like Lion King, where they really had to change quite a bit in order to make
Yeah.
for Broadway. And then she has this necklace. She's forgotten who she is. They have the beginning. There's this whole scene with her getting separated from her grandma, and her getting saved. Them both getting saved by the boy, the servant boy, and then she tries to hold on to her grandma on the train, and then she goes away, and
And she doesn't she fall on her head
yeah,
too. Yeah.
so then she forgets who she is, but she still has the this necklace, which is the key to the music box that the grandma has then.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't know what it means together in Paris, and she's at like an orphanage or whatever. She's kicked out by this lady and kind of mocked about it, and then she asks for a sign. She's like, "Give me a sign, give me a sign," and that's when she meets Puka, the cute little dog.
The cute little dog sidekick, which again, classic Disney, kind of,
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't speak sidekick, but who's super cute and it saves the day, or helps out with stuff.
yeah. And we get our first song from Anastasia with Journey to the Past. And we have a different voice actor for the voice versus the singing, which is something Disney does all the time. Like they did it with Pocahontas. They
Yeah,
did it with
and with Jasmine
Aladdin.
in Aladdin,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's not. So yeah, Meg Ryan voices
Mhm.
Anastasia, and I think Meg Ryan gives a really good vocal performance in this film.
Yeah. And it was a smart choice because she's so I mean, it was a smart choice because she's so recognized with romantic comedies, and that's basically what this movie is.
Yeah, Liz Calloway is the name of the singing
Yes.
voice of the adult Anastasia. Just as a trivia thing, in the opening scene with young Anastasia, Kirsten Dunst is the voice of young Anastasia, and Lacey Chabert, who I believe is very involved with Hallmark.
Yes, yes.
I can't say if I can speak to it, but at least I'm aware. The
She
Lacey,
is the current queen of Hallmark.
is she okay?
Yes, she's done over 20 movies for them, I think.
Yeah, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so she's the singing voice of young Anastasia. I didn't know she could sing. My most familiarity
Oh,
with
yeah.
Lacey Chabert is Clueless.
Oh, you mean Mean Girls?
I mean, sorry, Mean
Yeah,
Girls.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
no, she actually can. She was a young Cosette on Broadway for
Oh
years.
my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry to confuse
Probably
those
right around the
movies.
same time. She was probably young Cosette 97. So
Okay.
yeah. But or maybe a little bit earlier. But yeah, she was a young Cosette for years on Broadway. She does a lot of voice acting. She was on Wild Thornberries.
Oh, that's right.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so Liz Calloway, though, it's kind of interesting because she was also the singing voice for the Swan Princess
Oh,
for Princess
another Don
Odette.
Bluth.
Is Don Bluth on that one?
I thought
It's
Don Bluth was involved with this, or is that Gary Coleman?
no, it's Richard Rich
Oh, that's
who
Richard
did.
Rich. I got to
Yeah.
get my facts straight here. I'm blaming it. I'm still jet lagged. I'm blaming it on that. Sorry, people. Being clueless. Thank goodness for
Yeah.
Rachel.
But it's just interesting because both of those movies were very Disney light.
Well, and then she also, I'm just looking at on IMDb, but she also was in Return of Jafar,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the direct-to-video sequel to
Mhm.
Aladdin. She plays Princess Jasmine. Do you know if she was singing and speaking, or I'm just checking? But
It just says singing voice on IMDb,
yeah, singing voice. So, oh, Linda Larkin was bad. So they didn't get uh, Lea Salonga. They got Liz Calloway.
and she's got a great voice, beautiful voice.
Yeah,
And
she's a beautiful voice.
mhm.
I loved her singing in Anastasia.
Yeah, yeah, great and beautiful songs. And it's I think got a little bit of a bittersweet quality because of Journey to the Past, the pop version, because this was the era, where there was always a pop version,
Oh, they played during the
whatever
end
it was.
credits.
Yeah, with Aaliyah doing the pop
Oh,
version, and of course,
right.
course, she passed away in a plane accident at a very young age, and so it's it's very sad that she didn't get to. I think it was pretty soon after this that she passed away.
Yeah.
So that's very sad.
Sad.
Yeah, and then pretty soon after we get Once Upon a December when she goes into the empty hall, and she's sees Madge's everybody dancing
That's a
and everything.
magic scene.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It is beautifully done. And again, just I think one of the, if I wasn't already pulled into the film with this rewatch, it was that scene.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, this was really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And we get more of Rasputin and Bartok, and they definitely have a Jafar and Iago kind of trying
Yeah,
to do that.
absolutely.
Not as well done, of course, but they're definitely trying to do that. And there are some funny lines.
They have some good lines, and as you said, Christopher Lloyd gives a really solid performance, and I think
Mhm.
Hank Azaria can be really funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obvious that in the Dark of the Night is very inspired by Be Prepared. It's so similar, but I do like Christopher Lloyd's performance, and I liked some of the animation there, and I genuinely actually find the song pretty catchy.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty catchy, but it does feel derivative. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is when we get the train sequence. So he tries to stall them with breaking down the train, and you get some nice both action and romantic comedy banter with them being kind of
Yes.
back and forth, with each other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's a solid scene. It's an exciting scene, and
Yeah.
it. I'm with you. It's because John Cusack is voicing Dimitri,
Yes.
right?
Who's another person very commonly associated with rom-coms, with Say
Yeah.
Anything and things like that.
Kelsey Grammer voices Vladimir, who's the sidekick
Hmm.
of John Cusack. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, great. And he's the only one that does his own singing
Yeah,
in the movie. So that's nice.
that is nice. Yeah, and he does a good job.
Hmm. And then next we get Learn to Do It. If I could learn to do it, you could learn to do it.
Yeah,
It's a very classic musical
it
sequence.
is. I was gonna say it's just like, yeah, musical
You could learn to
comedy
do
there.
it
Yeah.
too. And then we get at the very end of that sequence, we get a little song from Vlad where he says, "I never should have let them dance."
Mm-hmm.
And that's very sweet. Very good. And she says, "I'm feeling a little lightheaded," and then we get the dream sequence, which I remember thinking was pretty scary. It's pretty intense. I mean, I was 16, so I wasn't that scared, but I thought it was pretty good.
No, it's intense.
Yeah, yeah.
When that it's really well animated how she goes into that garden, and then
Hmm.
the lighting drastically changes, and you really feel the music, and you really feel that sense of foreboding and
Hmm.
the danger that Anastasia's in.
Yeah, she almost walks off the boat.
Yeah, yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies. Yeah.
So the countess is getting frustrated that she's not going to let people break her heart anymore. And so then they have that introduction, and then that's when they arrive in Paris, and we get the whole Paris holds the key to your heart, which I love.
Which is another just like total classic.
Uh-huh.
You know, you just picture it on the stage,
Yeah.
the way that they do it.
Paris holds the key to your heart, and all of Paris plays a part.
Yeah.
So good. I love that. And I mean, that kind of musical theater number is just it's just perfect for me. I love that kind of thing so much. They got the
What?
romance, got the music, got the
Yeah,
choreography, the dancing. It's so fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's really it's delightful. Just a
Hmm.
solid musical.
Yeah.
What did you think? We haven't really talked about this much. What did you think of Angela Lansbury's performance
I mean,
as the
perfect.
Dowager
Exactly.
Empress Marie?
I mean, aside from them giving her some cringy dialogue to open, aside from that, like she's just absolutely perfect for
Yeah.
this part. Kind of playing the grandma. And I remember when she came to the Tabernacle Choir. I was
Yes.
lucky enough to be there, and she said that especially after 9/11, she felt like that she realized the children in particular had comfort from her voice in a way that she hadn't realized before, and that so she sang like obviously the Beauty and the Beast songs and the other songs, and because I mean a lot of people maybe don't realize it that she had a much more sort of risky and subversive career pre Disney. I mean, she did Bedknobs and Broomsticks and stuff too, but she had done Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
She had done Manchurian Candidate. She'd done these definitely more risky roles.
Yeah.
Hmm. So it's. What do you think?
You know, she's. I mean, I love Angela Lansbury so
Yeah,
much, and again, when you hear her voice, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's Mrs. Potts, which
yeah,
isn't fair. But again, I'm just thinking, but it's more just happy. You're like, oh,
hmm,
she is, it is comforting to have her be part of the project, and also I think it gives a kind of instant credibility too. When
yeah,
you hear, because she's the first voice you hear, if I'm not mistaken, in the film, and because she narrates that opening sequence, right?
yes, yes.
And but anyway, she's terrific, and I also wonder if they did some any. I feel like her character design. I mean, the character design of the Dowager Empress was influenced by her too, more so than the other actors. And I could be wrong or
Oh
reading too
yeah.
much into it. Just the way that they animated that character. To me, a lot of the shots look like it's Angela Lansbury to me.
Hmm. Yeah. And they allow the characters to have chemistry, and there is definitely a familiarity, a family feel, and a part of that I think is because of the warmth of their voices.
Yep,
Hmm.
agreed.
Yeah. So then, uh, sh then Anastasia overhears Dimitri talking, and and she gets upset, and she says, "I was just part of your con." And so it kind of storms off, and she says, but he says, but you really are the real Anastasia. And she has the key to the music box, and so that's kind of what convinces the Dowager. And then we have the so then he refuses the money for the for Anastasia, and but she doesn't know that. And so when she sees him coming out after talking to her, she's very icy. Dimitri. Yeah, you come. Did you get what you were looking for? Whatever. Yes, I did. And then that's when there's supposed to be this big debut, basically for
Yeah.
her, and she talks to the dowager, and the dowager says that he didn't take the money, and so then she leaves with her crown there and leaves her the note, and she goes. And so then you get this final confrontation to between Rasputin and Anastasia,
And it's a
and
doozy.
yes, Das Vidanya.
And again, to me, sorry, I'm such a broken record on this, but very Aladdin-esque to me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
how it's like, when Jafar turns into the snake and all this
yeah.
stuff's going on.
It's
And they're in
true.
great physical peril, hanging off of things and whatever
Hmm.
and whatnot.
Yeah, ultimate cosmic power and time space.
Right. Just with Christopher Lloyd's voice.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some. I thought Bartok's kind of funny in this when he's like, "Oh, we're back to the crushing."
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
funny.
Well,
This
and
can
then
only end in
Bartok
tears.
and then Bartok doesn't get killed either,
Yes,
which is kind of funny,
there's that girl bat.
right. So,
They have a whole Bartok movie. I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either. I'm one of those direct to video.
Yeah.
Oof.
So she destroys the lamp. That's when she's like, "That's Vidania,
Yeah,
Rasputin."
that glass vial or whatever, that
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and
the
and that
tube.
it kills him.
And then she goes off with Dimitri, and they see her, and it's a perfect ending, and it's the perfect beginning. It's very
Yeah, it's
cute.
exactly the perfect beginning. Well, and I like too that in this, she's got the Dowager gives Anastasia counsel that
Yeah,
she needed,
yeah.
rather than kind of stay in this bubble
Hmm.
with the Dowager. The Dowager encouraged her instead that they'll keep in touch, but that she should go have a life with
Yeah.
Dimitri.
Well,
Yeah.
and this movie does one of my least favorite tropes of the how could you lie to me? How could you trick me? I always hate that plot point,
Yeah.
but in this case, like, she does get over it pretty quick,
Pretty quick.
and Dimitri is so darn charming.
Yeah, they
So
do a good
good.
job, I thought, with the script for Dimitri
Yeah.
and the animation.
Hmm.
One other thing too, Rach, I think we should mention is that Bernadette Peters
Oh
is
yeah,
also
yeah,
in this, and
yeah,
she's got a song and stuff. I wish she had more to do. I wish they'd given her more, like,
yeah,
almost like a beefier role, but she's in it.
yeah.
She
She
put
was the one who does "Pre holds the key
per
to my
yeah the
heart."
per that Paris song,
Pre
and then
holds the key to.
she is the Dowager's assistant or
Yeah,
something, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
and she's
It's like her
it's
lady
Bernadette
in
it's
waiting,
Bernadette
actually.
Peters,
Yeah, that's true. So she does do her own singing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get our conclusion with Dimitri and Anya dancing and then kissing on the boat with Paris all around them. And you do, I feel like, get the feeling of this movie that they definitely tried as hard as they could. There's not a feeling of like laziness or,
No, or cheap.
yeah, that, I mean, people could say, oh, it feels too much like a copy, but I feel like that they used it maybe as a template. They were definitely trying to. I think that they still were putting in a lot of effort into this to make it as
I
good
do
as they
too.
could.
I don't feel like any of it got phoned in. You
Yes,
know,
yes, agree.
I I was really impressed with it. The only thing, it just highly derivative, but I know that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of these amazing Disney musicals from the Renaissance.
Hmm.
From the Disney Renaissance. That and who can blame them? Because
Hmm.
they were so those movies are so good, and they're just like, well, this is a winning formula. Why don't we copy it? And the story is unique enough that even though it's highly derivative, I still find it interesting. And again,
Hmm.
because I also, as I had earlier mentioned, really love that Ingrid Bergman
Oh
film,
yeah. Hmm.
you know, that I think is partly that this is based on.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so good.
And I love the closing credits song
Yes.
at the beginning. Richard Marx.
Yes, with Richard Marx.
Yes, and Donna Lewis.
Yes.
It's so good.
It's
Life is
so
a
good.
road, and I want to keep going. Love is a river, and I want to keep flowing. Life is a road now and forever. It's so good. And I think that's like an underappreciated part of. I mean, I think it was a pretty big hit at the time, but I love that song.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
good.
It's a great song. And then, they play that Aaliyah
Mm-hmm.
version, right, of
uh, Journey to the Past,
yes.
and then we have a Dina Carter doing Once Upon a December.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting again because that seemed to be a big deal too. They would kind of go over for crossover, to
Uh-huh.
get
Yeah.
they had the country artists and then they had kind of the pop stars
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
the classic from the time period,
Yeah.
you know, both I
So,
think for live action and for
mhm.
animated.
So yeah, this movie, like I said, I'm aware of its flaws as an adult, but I can still turn it on and just really have a great time. Really enjoy it. Really enjoy the characters, the romance, the songs, the choreography, all that going on. So I think you can appreciate as historical romance.
Yeah, it's terrific, and I enjoyed it a lot
Yeah.
too. Again, a little cringy for
Yeah.
me at times, but still, it's a solid movie, and it really
Mhm.
makes me want to see. I've got to bust out
Yeah.
Titan AE, which is the other
Oh,
film that was
I did
made
that. I
during the
watched
short Fox Animation Studios time.
Yeah. I watched that when I did it was like 1999, right? I
Yeah,
did
or
uh
2000 when it came out. It was
yeah,
2000.
cuz I did that for all the years that the animated Oscars have been in existence. I did did the right one win? And then we just talked about it on Ernest and Celestine episode, but then I also went back and did hypothetical. So I did one for because it started in 2002. So I did one 2001, 2002. I mean 2001, 2000, and 1999 is all I've done. But anyway, I watched Titan A finally for the first time and didn't love it.
Yeah, no, I don't remember liking it. I saw it in the
Like, oh
theater, and
no.
I thought I thought it was a real kind of a bore, but
Yeah.
I just am kind of interested to see it again because it looks to me that Fox technically only created Fox Animation 3 films: Anastasia, Titan AE, and they also did it's Bartok the Magnificent, which is that direct to DVD. That kind of
That's
that quote
interesting.
direct to video release. I didn't realize that they had done that. That
Hmm.
Bartok, and then according to the Wikipedia, the font of all truth, there's all like 12 canceled projects or projects that went to other studios
I'm
that they
sure.
never did.
I'm sure.
It's kind of a bummer. I mean, I guess a bummer, but that's just how life goes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we did have a bunch of comments on
Oh,
my
good.
Twitter on this one. So I'll read some of them. Rachel Masters, she says, parts were phenomenal. Parts were really weird. Overall, I keep coming back because it has a great score, awesome cast, and some good animation set pieces. I can't get over the bad taste when it comes to ghoulish villain elements, which normally I enjoy, but this was over the top. In Search of a Better Name says solid film and a great look at Don Bluth's talent, even with its weird insistence on taking legit Russian history and turning it into a Disney-esque movie. I oddly appreciate it more after watching the 1956 live-action film of the same name that it
Yeah.
was obviously influenced by.
Yeah.
Jacob Martin says, though it copies the Disney Renaissance formula a bit too much, I still enjoy the animation, Don Bluth's direction, and there's solid songs to keep the story engaging. Tammy says, haven't seen it in a while, but love it. The animation is good enough, but Anya and Dimitri were so cute. Very true.
Yeah.
MC Myers says, I absolutely adore the entire aspect of this movie that's a historical musical romance, and I think that part is Bluth's best work. But I hate Rasputin and Bartok, not just because of the tone they have, but because the plot is so good, it literally doesn't need a villain. What do you think about that? Do you think it doesn't need a villain?
You know, it probably needed a villain, to also just kind of keep it with the genre. But because I'm trying to picture it without a villain,
Mm-hmm.
you
Like,
know?
I kind of wished in the musical that they had just given him a different name,
Yeah.
and it kept the same song and the same things, but just had him be like evil sorcerer.
Right.
I don't know.
Evil court sorcerer or whatever.
Yeah, instead of
Yeah.
like boring general with no memorable
Right.
qualities at all.
Yeah.
Then we have Aragon says, saw it for the first time recently, really enjoyed it. Good songs, age appropriate given the history, with voice actors who work with it without overshadowing the characters. C.S. Johnson says it's one of my favorites, historical fantasy romance, which is among what I write. Even the historical part requires a lot of brain power. So there we go. Friend Nostalgia Cast, he says, Darren says the closest Bluth ever came to aping the Disney princess style that he broke away from. Also takes more inspiration from It Happened One Night than most people give it credit for. So that's an interesting
Yeah.
point.
That is interesting. I appreciate Darren bringing that up. And that's something, that you talk about too. That really, at its core, it's a romantic comedy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tamara Canty says, I absolutely love Anastasia. When I was a freshman in high school, I sang Once Upon a December for Theater Arts Night. So
Nice.
she probably rocked it. That sounds
Absolutely.
like something I would have done. Although it came out when I was a sophomore in high
Oh,
school.
okay.
Yeah, I was 16. So there we go. That is some of the thoughts. So thank you everybody for sharing.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
this is one that I really do enjoy. I get a lot of pleasure out of it. So so there we go. I'll put your thoughts of this movie in the comment section or on Twitter. Would love to hear it. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark. And I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
And I have reviewed Anastasia once before on my on this podcast for Family Movie Night way back. I think it was like the second or third movie that I did.
Oh, nice. Rage.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, at that time, because my original thought for Family Movie Night was that I was going to do only movies that you could watch on Netflix. That was kind of the idea.
Oh, yeah.
And it was actually on Netflix
It was
way
on
back
Netflix
then. Yeah, which is interesting.
back in the day. That is interesting.
Yeah. But I pretty quickly moved away from that. About I don't think 6 months. I was like, I don't want to just be so limited to one streaming
Yeah.
service. So, and now I've been doing it for 8 years.
Is it been your longest running?
Yeah.
Is that your longest run? Okay.
Pretty much every Monday. Yeah.
Nice.
I have something, and it's been really fun because I have like November, I'm doing Foreign Language Movie Month. In October, I do Disney Scares Month. In June, I always do Teen Movie Month. And I've reviewed a ton of Barbie movies. It's been a really fun series for me to do
series
every week.
Yeah, nice.
So, anyway, so I do have Anastasia that I reviewed previously on this channel. So I'll put a link down. You can check that out. And yeah, make sure you're following me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure that you're following me over at Hallmarkies Podcast. Got lots of ton stuff on there. A lot of ton on romance and rom-coms and holiday films and everything. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. We also have the patron group, which is so helpful. It's the biggest way that you can help me do what I do. So please take a look, and we have really good perks. And check out the merch store. We can hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. Let's take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.